contemporary arts from the Philippines. So I'm going to discuss what is it all about. So first is the core subject description. So this subject covers various contemporary arts practices of the region where the school is located. It aims to provide students with an appreciation of a broad range of styles in the various disciplines with consideration on their elements and principles, and engage them to an integrative approach in studying arts. So through this subject, the students will broaden and acquire the necessary creative tools that open opportunities in pursuing their goals and aspirations. Next, in this subject, we have 4 contents and 4 performance standards. So first is the content. Number 1, integrative art as applied to contemporary art. The second is contemporary arts in the Philippines. The third one is the different contemporary art techniques and performance practices. And the last one is the contemporary arts production. Now is the performance standard. First, the learner will present a form of integrated contemporary art based on the region of his or her choice. The second is the students will create avenues to advocate the arts from the different regions. The third one is the student will discriminate among various materials and techniques. And the last performance standard is they're going to design a production using available materials and appropriate techniques. So that's all. Hi, good day everyone, and welcome to Contemporary Philippine Arts from the Regions. So before we proceed to the week 3 or to the lesson 3, mag-recalling muna tayo. So last time we discussed about the different elements of art and the principles of designs. Can you give me some examples of different elements of arts?
Shape, line, space, color, and texture.
Next is we have the principles of designs. Give me some examples.
Scale and proportion, variety, harmony, movement, rhythm.
Now, how would you define the word or the term elements of arts?
Ma'am, ito po yung bumubuo sa art para po makagawa po tayo ng art.
How about the principles of design?
Dito po yung pag-arrange po ng elements of arts.
Sinabi po nating elements of arts, those are the building blocks of art to create an art. If there is no elements, there is no art. So, kinakailangan natin ng mga elemento ng mga arts to produce an artwork. Ganyan. So, pag sinabi natin principles of design, ito na yung manner, ito na yung style or technique mo kung paano mo i-organize, kung paano mo i-balance yung mga elements of art. Those two, the elements of art and the principles of design, is very important or very essential in making an artwork. Kasi, bakit kailangan ng elements? Bakit kailangan ng principles? Para mas maging clear at malinaw ito sa mga nakakakita ng mga ginagawa nating artwork. Now, we can proceed to our lesson for today. So, our lesson is all about the history of Philippine art. At the end of the lesson, the learner will able to identify the art forms accumulated and developed in the Philippines through time, classify the various art forms developed during the PreColonial Era up to the present era, appreciate the various art forms found in the Philippines. Okay, the history of the Philippine art. First, what is history? How would you define the word history? So, siguro some of you study of the past. But that definition is redundant na and nagagamit na natin in their elementary, high school. So how would you define the word history in logical manner? So first, the history is derived from the Latin word historia, which means knowledge. So meaning, the history is a knowledge that is acquired through investigation, so with the supportive evidences. It is acquired through deep research. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang siya basta pag-aaral. In terms of history, titingnan din natin kung tama ba talaga yung nandito. Siyempre magsisearch tayo, magre-research tayo. Hindi lang based dun sa mga primary sources na nakikita natin or sa secondary sources na tayo mismo kailangan din mag-research, ganyan. So, history of Philippine art. So, I'm going to discuss how the various art forms in the Philippines is accumulated and developed from the beginning of civilization and until to the present era. So, aalamin natin kung paano sila nagkaiba-iba, paano sila natin acquired, paano sila natin nakuha, ganyan. And para malaman natin kung saan yung purposes ng art during those times. So the Philippines is an archipelago with more than 7,000 islands. And pag sinabi po natin archipelago, ibig sabihin ang Pilipinas is surroundings with a vast water. So these islands are the home of people with different languages. And alam naman po natin na sobrang dami ng lengguwahe na meron tayo sa Pilipinas. Marami tayong mga dialekto, which is may Cebuano, Waraynon, Ilocano, etc. And also, these islands are the home of people with different beliefs. Lalong-lalo na tayong mga Pilipino, marami tayong mga pamahiin, mga paniniwala na namana natin sa ating mga ninuno, na hanggang sa ngayon ay nag-e-exist pa rin dito sa ating bansa. Next is the different culture. The way of life of the people in the Philippines is differ to each region or differ in each places. And next is the distinct histories. Of course, in each place, in each region, iba-iba po tayo ng historical origins and historical roots. So, it is the testaments to its rich culture and tradition. Sabi nga nila, hindi man daw tayo mayaman sa pera, mayaman daw tayo sa kultura at sa tradisyon. So, paano masabi na ang mga Pilipino ay mayaman sa tradisyon at kultura? So, makikita mo yan sa mga artworks ng mga Pilipino. Next, so more than the geographic influences, art in the Philippines is also influenced by a rich history of its people. So, ibig sabihin, it's not just because of the geographic area, kung saan tayo natatagpuan, or dahil scattered yung islands natin, ganyan. It is also because that the Filipino itself, yung pinagmulan natin is talagang makasaysayan, and tayo mga Pilipino ay creative, resource flexible, and adaptable, and etc. Napaka-flexible ng mga Pilipino na kahit sa saang bansa, nakakapag-adapt, nakakapunta, or nakakapagtrabaho tayong mga Pilipino. Okay, next. So in the given diagram, we have 7 era or 7 period. So first is the PreColonial part, or the times kung saan wala pa yung mga colonizers. Kaya nga siya tinawag na pre-colonial. Ito yung mga panahon na wala pang Spaniards, wala pang Amerikano, wala pang mga Hapones. And their art is just for ritual purposes and for everyday use. So, ang example natin sa ritual purposes is the Cebuano tamblan, or the tamblan ritual of the Cebuano. So, they offer a meat of food, pork or chicken na may kasamang wine, then ino-offer nila yun sa kanilang sakahan or dun sa kanilang field. Bakit sila nag-offer ng food or ng pagkain dun sa kanilang sakahan? Para daw mawala yung mga bad spirits na mamemeste sa kanilang sakahan, and para na rin magkaroon sila ng good harvest. So, yun yung kanilang paniniwala in terms of farming. Next naman is the fishing, which is in terms of Visayas, mayroon silang tinatawag na gibang ritual. So, sa gibang ritual, nagchat-chat sila ng gibang-gibang kon magtoto kami, gibang-gibang kon magtoto kami. In English, sway, sway if we should proceed. So, sino yung sinasabihan nila dito ng sway-sway? Yung boat nila mismo. Sabi dito, once daw nag-sway yung boat, so pwede na silang mangisda, ganyan. Pero pag hindi daw nag-sway yung boat, hindi daw oras o hindi daw yung tamang araw para sila ay mangisda. Next is, kung mapapansin nyo dyan sa picture, ayan, so meron dyan mga tattoo. So during those time, yung mga tattoo, it symbolizes and it represents the status or their accomplishment in their community. So dati, the more na marami kang tattoo, the more na tinitingala ka nila, the more na kinikilala ka nila, ganyan. Kasi pag marami kang mga tattoo, sobrang dami mo ng accomplishment sa buhay, sobrang dami mo na napatay, ganyan. And tinitingnan ka nila as a leader. So, during the PreColonial era, the canvas is their body, while the art is the tattoo. But in the present era, pag ikaw ay maraming tattoo, na kahit mata mo, dinalagyan mo ng tattoo, sasabihin ng iba is, aadik-adik ka. Parang addict yung tingin nila kapag marami kang tattoo. But during the PreColonial era, the more na marami kang tattoo, the more na tinitingala ka nila. Next is the second picture. Is the lean-to shelter. So, at first, lahat naman alam siguro to na ang mga ancestors natin or ang mga ninuno natin is they dwelt on caves, so sa mga kuweba. But as they hunt and move for food, so they learn the art of architecture. So gumawa sila ng lean-to shelter, which is, kita nyo naman na flexible and adaptable siya. Madali siyang ikabit at madali rin siyang alisin. And yung gamit niya is mga kahoy-kahoy lang. So kahit saan sila pumunta, makikita silang mga kagamitan para makapaggawa ng lean-to shelter. And next is the manunggul jar. So, on the third picture, so manunggul jar naman, makikita nyo dyan, there's two fishermen in a boat. It represents the afterlife. And hanggang ngayon, sa mga pots, pag nagpapakremate tayo, linalagay yung abo sa pots, is ginagawa pa rin siya ngayon. So, during PreColonial era, dyan din nilalagay yung nakremate na patay, and then ilalagay yung abo doon sa manunggul jar. And may part naman na yung iba is sinasaboy nila yung abo sa dagat. So marami pang mga tools din yun na produced during PreColonial era. So ilalagay ko na rin in the next slide. Okay? PreColonial era, it is polytheistic religion na kung saan kahit anong bagay or ano yung nakikita nila is sinasamba nila, na even puno sinasamba nila. During PreColonial era, kahit nga diba sa dagat, ino-opera ng food, sa farm, sa sakahan, ino-opera din ng food. So more on animistic practices sila. So in the PreColonial era, the survival of the community is the primary concern of the community. So makikita naman natin na meron silang mga ritual purposes for their farming, for their fishing, ganyan. And even yung mga tools na ginagamit nila is still related sa ginagawa nila sa araw-araw. Next is the Islamic arts. So, how would you define the Islam? Ano yung maiisip mo pag narinig mo yung Islam? Muslim religion, yes. So, Islam is the monotheistic religion in the Philippines, and sinasabi daw na ang mga Islam daw or mga Muslim daw is the resistance against the Western colonization. Mapapansin nyo, the southern part of the Philippines, sila lang yung hindi naging Catholic, sila lang yung hindi na influensyahan ng mga Spaniards. Kaya Islamic arts, they use geometric designs and patterns. So there is an absence of human form or figurative representation in terms of the Islamic art. Why? Because it should not be used in terms of worship. So main form of art in the Islam is the calligraphy, which is a form of writing. So yung calligraphy, makikita natin siya kadalasan sa mga mosque. Next example is the ikir. So yung ikir, kung mapapansin nyo, ayan siya, ay more on designs, more on geometric designs, and more on patterns. So in Islamic arts, there's an absence of figurative representations. Next is the Spanish era. So here, nagbago yung patron ng art. The patron of art is for religion. So meron tayong tinatawag na 3G, kung bakit ba tayo sinakop, or ito yung mga rason bakit tayo sinakop ng mga Spaniards. The glory, the gold, and the God. So first is the glory for them to be fame, of course, na makilala sa yung bansa nila. Next is the gold, which is, alam naman natin, ang Pilipinas is mayamang talagang bansa. So yung mga resources na makukuha nila sa ating bansa, so advantage nila yon. Next, the last and the most important is God, which is to introduce and spread the Christianity. So since there's a barrier in terms of communication, so here meron tayong mga santo dyan, for sure sa mga bahay, may mga altar pa nga, ganun. And in terms of music, merong pasyon or pabasa tuwing Semana Santa, ganyan. And in terms of theater, andyan yung mga sinakulo, the Passion of the Christ, pagpepenitensya, pagpapapako sa krus. So yun yung ginagawa ng mga tao in the Philippines tuwing Semana Santa. Okay, next is the American era. So after the Spaniards, the American came. Actually, yung American yung tumulong sa atin para makawala tayo sa mga Spaniards, pero may hidden agenda rin para sa atin na makolonize tayo. Spaniards, diba, is the patron of art is religion. Para makolonize tayo, ginamit nila yung religion. And Americans naman, na-colonize tayo through education and government. So nag-introduce sila ng fine arts, which is pag sinabi po natin fine arts, it is more on visual art form and it is highly appreciated by our eyes. And the Americans favored in idyllic sceneries. Pag sinabi po natin idyllic sceneries, more on calm, peaceful yung makikita natin sa isang art. Katulad na lang na ito. Yan. So, by Fernando Amorsolo. So, makikita po natin dyan na sobrang calm and peaceful nung pag-isda. Ibig sabihin, parang sa painting na yan, pag nakita mo yan, parang ang sarap-sarap ng isda. Parang walang problema kapag nangingisda. So, yun yung naging style nung art during those time, which is tinawag din Amorsolo style. During those time, nakapagpatayo din ng mga schools, School of Arts. And since din nga po si Fernando Amorsolo, yung standard nila or naging basehan nila ng art during those time is yung kay Amorsolo, that which is more on lightnings, more on positivity, more on calm, more on peaceful. So yung mga theme dito, more on genre, more on nature, ganyan po. And then they also introduced the English medium. So sa pagtuturo during those time, it is in English form, in English medium. So ano yung pinagkaiba naman ng American era at saka na Spaniard era? Pag sinabi natin Spaniard era, it is more religion, right? Pero pag sinabi natin American era, it is secular form. Pag sinabi po natin secular form, it is not related or not connected to the religion. Kasi nga, more on idyllic sceneries theme nung art nila during the American era. Next is the Japanese era. So, the Japanese era, after ng America, na-colonize tayo ng Japanese era, and ang tawag dito ay puppet government era. Bakit siya tinawag ng puppet government era? Kasi noong time na yan, tayo ay sunod-sunuran, but may advantage din. In the sense na may propaganda kasi yung mga Hapon, which is the Asia belong to Asia. And alam naman natin na ang American at saka ang Spaniard is part of the Western countries. So tayo is Eastern countries. So the Japanese, nagpapropaganda sila na ang Pilipinas ay part ng Eastern countries. They want us to embrace our own culture. Ganyan. Although, marami talaga nangyari during Japanese era, Japanese colonization. Sobra yung naging hirap din ng mga Pilipino, maraming namatay, ganyan. But it boasts our nationalism or tries the nationalism of the Filipino people, wherein nung mga panahon na yan kasi is Philippine literature in English stopped. So, instead of English, instead ang medium ay English, the people or the Filipino people writers use our vernacular language. So, instead na English, they use the Tagalog para makapagsulat ng mga story or tula, ganyan. And the visual arts is more on propaganda. Contrast dun sa American era na which is more on idyllic sceneries. Next is the haiku. So, yung haiku, which is the previous. So, maganda dito yung pinaka-content niya. The content is more on love for nature, love for nation, love for a country. So, pagmamahal sa nasyon, pagmamahal sa bayan. Okay, next is the modern art. So, after the World War II, nag-boost na yung national identity ng Filipino people, kaya nagkaroon ng modern art. So, marami na rin mga modern artists during American era. Ang kaso nga lang, hindi din masyadong nabibigyan ng pansin kasi nga mas favored din sila dun sa Amor Solo style, which is calm and placidity. Now, we're going to compare what is modern art. Kumpara natin siya sa conventional form of art of Amor Solo style. So, based on the picture, saan dyan ang modern art at saan dyan ang conventional form of art. Yung figure 1.5 is the modern art, while the figure 1.6 is the conventional form of art of Fernando Amor Solo. So, dito sa picture, sa figure 1.5, makikita mo yung hirap or yung mga difficulties na meron sa pangingisda. While in the figure 1.6, makikita mo na ang sarap ng isda, na ang calm, ang peaceful na parang mga isda lang. So, ang ini-emphasize in terms of modern art is, so meron lang silang konting binabago in styles of art, ganyan, sa mga brush style of painting. And instead of pastoral and beautiful, idyllic sceneries, they depict might be the ugly content and unpleasant. So, modern art broke away the conventional forms of art or the Amor Solo style. There's a defection or there's a difficulties in terms of fishing. But it is not more on negative. Basta pag sinabi po natin modern art, there's a changes in terms of doing an artwork. Paano mo siya ginagawa, paano yung technique, paano yung styles, ganyan. So next is the contemporary art. So what is the difference between the modern art and the contemporary art? If we talk in terms of history, pag sinabi natin contemporary art, it is produced by artists living today. Ibig sabihin, those art na nag-e-exist ngayong araw na to, ngayong panahon na to, ay buhay pa yung gumawa ng art na yon. Paano naman pag sinabi natin, paano po pag modern artist ka, then nagawa ka pa rin ngayon? Iko-considered ba yun as contemporary art or modern art? So next example is the picture. It is a frugal meal by Cesar Legazpi, wherein it is a modern style of art. But since buhay pa siya at continuous pa rin na nagpipainting siya, pwede siyang ma-considered as contemporary art as being of present, kasi present siya. But the main content or the style of the specific painting is a modern art. So, pwede siyang considered as contemporary art, pwede rin siya as modern art. Contemporary art kasi buhay pa siya, modern art kasi the style or the content of the art. Okay? Next, modern design refers to an era that has passed, while contemporary design is all about the now and the future. Meaning, the modern art, yun yung mga nagdaan na. But pag sinabi natin, but still existing. Pero pag sinabi natin contemporary art, ito yung mismong kasalukuyang nangyayari, kasalukuyang art, kasalukuyang design, which is may posibilidad na maging modern art. Ibig sabihin, yung mga contemporary art ngayon is galing sa modern design. Yung mga contemporary art ngayon, siya ay papunta na rin sa mga modern design. Meaning, if there is no modern art, there is no contemporary art. Kasi contemporary art is informed by modernism. For example, ang rap po ay modern art. Now, paano siya magiging contemporary art? In the way that nagbago yung style, nagbago yung manner kung paano mag-rap. For example, is nagkaroon ng rap battle, nagkaroon ng mga flip-top, ganyan. Another example is yung bawal lumabas. Di ba alam naman natin na talagang siya ay naging naging trending sa atin. So, papaano siya na magiging contemporary art? In the sense na yung mga Pilipino, tayong mga Pilipino, sa sobrang creative natin, yung bawal lumabas, ginawa natin sa TikTok, ginawa natin ng sayaw, ginawa na natin ng kanta. So, dun pa lang, makikita natin yung pagbabago ng style or manner, na which is informed by modernism, informed by the past events. Next is the kabet. Yung kabet kasi matagal na siyang kanta, which is nauso this 2020 and ginawa natin ng bagong style, ginawa nyo ng TikTok, ginawa nyo ng sayaw, ganyan. So, nagiging contemporary art siya in the sense na bigla siyang pumatok kasi ginawa siya ng bagong style, ginawa siya ng bagong technique kung paano siya gawin. So, it is not specific to any era or any period. Pag sinabi natin contemporary art, wala siyang, hindi niya concern yung era or period kung saan siya nanggaling. As long as it is new and unusual art forms. To the real socio-political condition. Ibig sabihin, contemporary arts reflects the real situation kung ano ba yung nangyayari sa kasalukuyan. For example, ang probinsyano ni Coco Martin. Sometimes, mapapansin po natin na yung mga scene ng episode ng probinsyano is nangyayari sa kasalukuyan. In the real time, or in the real life situation, meron tayong election na talagang boboto tayo, ganyan, election time. Then, ang magiging scene din nila doon sa probinsyano is election din. So, ganun yung pag sinabi natin contemporary art, it reflects the lives of the society. Kung ano yung mismo o ano yung kasalukuyan na nangyayari. Contemporary art is this take on how the elements of arts and the principles of design integrates to one another. As long as it is unusual art forms, new, bago sa paningin natin, so it is contemporary art. Okay?
So, ethnic art is more on integral to life. Pag sinabi natin integral to life, since yung art nila is more on ritual purposes and more on for everyday use, it is related to the survival of the community. For survival purposes, or it is more integrated or connected to the community life of our ancestors during the PreColonial Era. Next is the Islamic art. So it is geometric designs in the sense that there is an absence in the human form or figurative representation, since for them it should not be used for worship. Unlike sa mga Christian or Catholic religion na kung saan gumagamit ng mga santo-santo, etc. So sa Islamic, they do not use human representation, more on abstract and more on calligraphy. Next is the American era. The contrast between the Spanish era and the American era, it is more on secular forms. Meaning, pag sinabi natin secular forms, it is not related or it is not connected in the religion. It is more on fine arts, more on yung paintings nila is aesthetics, more on beauty, more on idyllic sceneries, more on nature. Yun yung kanilang form of art, and more on calm, peaceful, and placidity. Next, pag sinabi nating Japanese era, since pag sinabi nating orientalizing from the word orient, pag sinabi kasi nating orient means rising of the sun. So, ang rising of the sun is in the eastern part. And Asia is part of the eastern part. Now, ang western ay yung American at Spanish. So, ang patron or ang propaganda ng mga Japanese is Asia belong to Asia, Eastern belong to Eastern, Philippines is Eastern, so Philippines belong to Asia, Philippines belong to the Asia, and not from the Western countries. So, nagkaroon dito ng using ng vernacular language, which is the Tagalog, and nagkaroon ng stop in doing literature in terms of English. Next, in terms of modern era, since nag-boost na nga or nag-rise na ngayon nationalism, so nagkaroon na ng main theme, which is the national identity, which is contrast to the more solo style. So yung mga nandito is more on ugly or unpleasant theme, but not more on negative to ha. Basta more on modern society, kung ano rin yung mismong nangyayari sa ngayon. Now, between the modern art and the contemporary art is the product of the modern art. If there is no contemporary art, if there is no modern art. Kasi yung contemporary art, siya ay galing lang sa mismong modern art. And the contemporary art, it is more on the real time, or ano yung mga kasalukuyang nangyayari. In terms of history, in terms of time, contemporary art ay those art that produced by the living people, yung mga buhay na tao. Pag sinabi naman natin modern art, ito yung mga hindi na buhay na tao, or those art that has passed.
Good day everyone, welcome to Contemporary Philippine Arts from the region. My name is Ronaldin T. Casanova. You can call me Ma'am Casanova. I've been teaching here at PASI for 3 years and this is my 4th year. I'm so excited